At 95, the story of Clint Eastwood is beyond heartbreaking. 95 years old, 5 Oscars, 50 films as a director, a 7-decade career in cinema. The man who turned silence into power. The man who made the Western immortal. The man who became the definition of American masculinity. But here is what they don't tell you about legends. The higher you climb, the colder the summit becomes. Clint Eastwood built an empire out of nothing. He reached the top after Hollywood told him he would never matter. He became untouchable. But being untouchable means exactly this. No one can touch you. Not your spouses. Not your children. Not even yourself. This is the story of a man who won everything and lost what mattered most. May 31st, 1930. San Francisco. The Great Depression. Clint Eastwood enters an already broken world. His father chases disappearing jobs across California like a ghost hunter. Sacramento. Pacific Palisades. Piedmont. Forgotten towns, forgotten names. By the time Clint reaches adolescence, he has been the new kid dozens of times. New faces that never become friends. New teachers who never remember his name. I was shy, really shy, he would later admit. Words that seem impossible coming from the man who could stare down outlaws without blinking. I didn't belong anywhere. I was just there. At 21, the call for the Korean War comes. During a military exercise, the Navy bomber he is riding in crashes into the Pacific. He swims for miles through freezing water with the pilot to reach shore. Years later, he will recall it with eerie calm. I just kept swimming. What else could I do? That line, what else could I do, becomes the quiet mantra of his entire life. At 23, he is working construction when a Universal cameraman notices him. You should try acting. It sounds ridiculous. He has never performed, never even considered it. But desperation opens doors ambition never can. Universal signs him in 1954. This is supposed to be the big break. Instead, it turns into 7 years of humiliation. Tiny roles cut before release. Directors call him stiff. Producers say he is too slow. Then comes the now legendary evaluation. You have a chip in your tooth, your Adam's apple sticks out too much, and you talk too slowly. The message is clear. You don't belong here. In 1955, Universal drops him. As James Dean Burns' Bright and Marlon Brando rewrites the rules, Clint Eastwood becomes a nobody Hollywood chewed up and forgot. But he doesn't quit. Not because he believes in himself. He isn't sure. He simply doesn't know what else to do. An Italian director named Sergio Leone calls with an offer nobody wants. A low-budget Western in the Spanish desert. Every agent says the same thing. Don't do it. Italian Westerns are career suicide. Clint sees what they don't. A way out of the cage Hollywood built around him. He flies to Spain for $15,000 and a plane ticket. A fistful of dollars changes everything. No noble sheriffs. No moral speeches. Just violence, silence, and a nameless stranger who kills without regret. Leone's extreme close-ups on Clint's eyes. Long stretches of stillness. The very stiffness Hollywood hated suddenly becomes magnetic. Europe goes wild. But America? Hollywood dismisses him as foreign trash. Then 1967 arrives. United Artists finally releases the films in U.S. theaters. The impact is seismic. Overnight, a washed-up TV actor becomes the most exciting presence in cinema. The industry that rejected him now races to sign him. Clint doesn't celebrate, he strategizes. In 1968, he forms his own production company. Never again to be powerless. Then 1971. Dirty Harry. Do you feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? It isn't just a hit. It's a cultural earthquake. By the mid-1970s, Clint Eastwood is the highest-paid actor in the world. But acting is never enough. Behind the granite face that made him legendary lies a private life fractured by secrets. 1953, he marries Maggie Johnson. She believes in him when nobody else does. But when fame arrives, distance follows. Affairs begin quietly. Roxanne Tunis, a stunt woman, in 1964. A daughter is born, Kimber. Clint acknowledges the child privately, but keeps her existence hidden for years. I always felt like a secret, Kimber will later say. Then comes Sandra Locke. 13 years together. 6 films. But while with Sandra, Clint has 2 more children with flight attendant Jacelyn Reeves, Scott, and Catherine. He hides them from Sandra, from everyone. When Sandra learns the truth, the betrayal shatters her. In 1989, Clint abruptly ends the relationship. He changes the locks while she is out. No warning, just eviction. The lawsuits become a public spectacle. Clint has already moved on. When the dust settles, 7 children by 5 different women. 2 divorces. Countless affairs. A chain of broken relationships stretching across 60 years. Clint doesn't do intimacy, a colleague admits. He does control, and when he can't control it, he moves on. Late 1980s. Clint Eastwood becomes what Hollywood fears most. Predictable. At 60, he looks like a relic. Eastwood is finished, executives whisper. Too old. Too slow. Then comes 1992. Unforgiven. It isn't just a Western. It's the funeral for everything Westerns once pretended to be. Clint plays William Money, an aging killer discovering that redemption is a lie. Warner Brothers is nervous. Test audiences call it depressing. They want reshoots. They want Clint to be Clint again. He refuses. August 1992. Critics who ignored him for decades suddenly see an artist. The film isn't merely good, it's profound. The Academy Awards. Best Picture. Best Director. 4 Oscars total. At 62, Clint Eastwood forces the industry to see him not as a commodity, but as a filmmaker. He doesn't slow down. Mystic River. $1 Million Baby. Another Best Picture. Another Best Director. Letters from Iwo Jima. Humanizing America's Enemies. Shot entirely in Japanese. The man who built his career playing American heroes now rejects easy patriotism. In his 90s, he becomes the elder statesman of American cinema. His films exploring grief, regret, and redemption with surgical precision. Yet the contradiction follows him. He can make films full of empathy, but those closest to him describe a man incapable of the vulnerability his movies demand. Clint understands human pain intellectually, a collaborator says. He can film it beautifully, but he doesn't feel it. Not his own, not other people's. At 91, he directs, produces, and stars in Cry Macho. In one scene, his character says, "I used to think I had all the answers. Then I got old and realized I didn't even know what the questions were." It feels less like a line and more like a confession. Because at 94, Clint Eastwood is still working. Not from passion, from fear. Fear of what happens when the cameras stop. Clint doesn't know how to stop, says a longtime friend. If he isn't working, he doesn't know who he is. He lives in a vast property in Carmel overlooking the Pacific. His mansion is filled with Oscar statuettes, photographs with presidents, movie posters spanning half a century. But the house, friends say, often feels empty. His children visit, some more than others. Relationships are complicated, shaped by decades of absence and emotional distance. You can't get the lost years back, Kimber says. You can only decide what to do with the years you have left. Clint Eastwood's cinematic legacy is untouchable. 5 Academy Awards, 50 directed films, characters carved forever into cultural memory. But his personal legacy? Children who carry his name, but not his presence. Lovers who carry wounds. A 95-year-old man who still can't stop long enough to ask whether the journey was worth the cost. He taught us how to make great movies. But his life teaches something harder. The lone cowboy may reach the horizon first, but he arrives there alone. Success and happiness are not the same thing. When one demands everything and the other requires surrender, power and connection cannot coexist. In the end, Clint Eastwood became exactly what he wanted to be. Unforgettable, untouchable, and completely, irreversibly alone. The cameras will eventually stop. The legacy will remain. And somewhere in Carmel, an old man sits in silence, surrounded by the ghosts of what he built and what he left behind. Because that is the price of becoming a legend. You rise above humanity, and in doing so, you lose the very thing that makes life worth living.